Nubia, a significant historical region traversed by the Nile River in Africa, encompassed what is now the two Sudans, southern Egypt, and parts of Ethiopia. Often depicted in official narratives as a lesser-known area or as a vassal state under Egyptian influence, Nubia has been variously described. It was known to the ancient Egyptians as Ta-Seti, meaning the land of the archers. There are perceptions that Nubia was distinct from or even opposed to the predominantly white Egyptian population, particularly highlighted during the era of the Black Pharaohs of Egypt's 25th dynasty. However, this simplifies the complex and rich history of a region integral to the development of early pharaonic civilization. The narrative that separates Egypt from its African roots has been prominent, especially since the 19th century during the peak of Western imperialism. This perspective gained traction alongside the recognition of Egypt as a major civilization in history. There was an effort to downplay or deny Egypt's African and specifically black origins, partly influenced by the racial attitudes of the time, which often regarded black people as inferior. This approach led to a deliberate distancing of Sudan, a region closely associated with Black Africa, from ancient Egypt. Despite the well-documented Nubian roots of Egyptian civilization recognized by scholars, there has been a tendency to overlook or diminish this connection. Understanding Egypt's history and its significant achievements, however, requires acknowledging and embracing its African nature and the continuity of its Nubian origins. This perspective is crucial for a complete and accurate appreciation of Egypt's place in the history of human civilization. Nubia, geographically connected to Egypt, also has deep ties with the African Great Lakes region and the areas of southern and central Africa. These regions are significant as they are believed to be where modern humans first appeared around 300,000 years ago. The earliest populations that inhabited and shaped Nubia during prehistoric times are thought to have originated from these areas, particularly the Great Lakes region. These early inhabitants, primarily fishermen, descended along the Nile, bringing with them knowledge and practices deeply intertwined with water, such as navigation and boat building. They were joined by hunter-gatherers and herders in the Nile Valley, leading to a fusion of cultures that laid the foundation for the Nubian civilization. This amalgamation of African cultures in Nubia played a pivotal role in the development of civilizations across the world. The black populations, such as the Anu, are believed to have migrated from Nubia and spread their influence globally. This is evident in the naming of various groups and deities in different regions, such as the Canaanites in the Near East, the Sumerians in Mesopotamia, the Dravidians in India, and the Ainu in Japan, all of whom are linked to the Anu. This narrative underscores the significance of Nubia as a cradle of civilization, not just for Africa, but globally, with its people playing a crucial role in the dissemination of culture and knowledge. The ancient Egyptians, who referred to themselves as Anu, are also seen as having their origins in this rich cultural melting pot of Nubia. Ancient Egyptian documents, like the royal papyrus of Turin, suggest the beginnings of their civilization date back to around 40,000 years ago. Greek historian Diodorus Siculus, in his Universal History, relays the Ethiopian, referring broadly to black African populations, including Nubians, belief that the Egyptians originated from their ranks, led by Osiris. He mentions that Egypt's land, initially submerged under the sea, emerged habitable over millennia due to the Nile's deposits and the Mediterranean Sea's retreat. This narrative supports the idea that Egyptian civilization began in Nubia. Egyptians themselves have often acknowledged their Nubian and African roots. Sheikh Anta Diop, in his book, Black Nations and Cultures, underscores this, stating that the Egyptians clearly recognized their ancestral origins as Nubian and from the heart of Africa. This perspective sheds light on the deep historical connections between Nubia and ancient Egypt, highlighting a shared African heritage. According to Greek historian Diodorus Siculus, many Egyptian customs, including the reverence for kings as gods and funeral rites, originated from Ethiopia, referring broadly to black African populations, including Nubians. He also noted that the styles of sculpture and writing in Egypt were influenced by Ethiopian practices. Interestingly, while Egyptians had two types of writing, sacred and vulgar, Ethiopians used both indiscriminately. The foundations of Egyptian civilization, such as the Osiris and Seth myth, the emergence of pharaonic kingship, and the unification of Egypt, are believed to have occurred in Nubia. American archaeologist Bruce Williams, through his studies and excavations in southern Egypt and Sudan, revealed that around 3500 to 3100 BC, Nubia was a unified state with a developed civilization, including a government, pharaoh, officials, religion, script, and monuments. This suggests that Nubia, known to the ancient Egyptians as Tasseti, played a significant and previously underestimated role in the development of Nile Valley civilization. The Nubians, known for practices like matriarchy, circumcision, and totemism, worshipped a monotheistic deity named Amani, also known as Amun, who manifested in various forms similar to Egyptian deities like Isis, Osiris, Thoth, and Horus. This perspective suggests that the first Egyptian pharaohs were actually Nubian, indicating that Sudanese influence on the Egyptian throne didn't just start with the 25th dynasty, as is often suggested in Western narratives. Sheikh Anta Diop notes that Nubian and Egyptian kings shared the title Sparrowhawk of Nubia. This title, often overlooked in official Egyptology, implies that Egyptian pharaohs recognized and embraced their Sudanese and Nubian origins, as well as the Nubian roots of pharaonic kingship. Nubian warriors often played a significant role in Egypt's defense and security forces, including the police, army, and guards, due to close alliances between the two regions. Sheikh Anta Diop highlights the deep cultural connections between Egypt and Nubia. He notes that the priestess of Amun, the deity of Thebes, a sacred city in Egypt, was traditionally a Sudanese Meroitic woman, emphasizing the interlinking of religious practices between the two regions. Diop also mentions historical accounts by Diodorus Siculus and Herodotus, suggesting that many Egyptian pharaohs, including those outside the well-known Nubian dynasty, were of Sudanese origin. This contradicts the narrow view of black pharaohs as a separate or distinct group. Furthermore, Nubia was a rich source of precious metals and stones for Egypt, including gold and lapis lazuli. It also served as a gateway for goods from deeper within Africa, such as leopard skins and incense. Powerful Nubian states, especially Kush, frequently resisted Egypt's attempts at territorial unification, leading to wars and periods of forced annexation by Egyptian rulers like Sesostris III, Thutmose III, and Ramesses II. However, as Egypt weakened after 1070 BC, Kush gained independence and significant political influence. During this time, the Sudanese, responding to requests from Egypt, intervened to aid and eventually rule Egypt legitimately under pharaohs such as Pianki, Shabaka, Taharka, and Tantamani. This period, known as the 25th dynasty, was the last time Egypt shone beyond its traditional borders until its fall to the Assyrians in 663 BC and later to the Romans in 30 BC. Notably, the Romans' attempts to conquer Nubia were repelled by Candake Amanirenas, a formidable pharaoh queen, leading to peace treaties. The Meroitic era under the pharaoh queens marked a stable period for Kush that lasted over 300 years, eventually transitioning into three Christianized black kingdoms with shared alliances and cultures rooted in the ancient Nile Valley civilizations. In the 14th century, Arab-Muslim conquests in the region led to the Islamization of Nubia, transforming present-day Sudan into an Arab-Muslim territory. The shared efforts of ruling Arabs in Sudan and Egypt have often led to the minimization of the region's black history. Nubia's rich history, spanning from African prehistory to the 14th century, highlights its role as a cradle of black civilizations and its enduring influence, particularly as the mother of Egyptian civilization. Today's Nubians, residing in the Nile Valley within the modern, Islamized, and Arabiized nations of Egypt and Sudan, often face discrimination. Their identity, culture, and history are frequently overlooked or undervalued.